I want to make this session as interactive as I can. So try to make use of it and utilize that. And I'm sure people who are working in Agile for few years or many years are not even working in Agile. I will try to give a combination of the context and then the detail as well as the brief. However, you can digest and understand. I'm sure, as I said, when you leave the session, you should have clear takeaways from here, and you will try to apply those at your workplace from tomorrow. Again, thank you, Vinay, for this opportunity. So let me share my session. PPT, 1 second. Okay, can you all see the screen?
Yes,
Yes, we
Sanket,
can.
Vinay? Okay, okay. So only my request to Vinay and Sanket, I fully focus on the session. So do share, whenever somebody is typing, I don't want to toggle between the chart and my presentation. So if you could do that help, that would be great. So this is what Sanket said, and this is who I
Sure,
am. Yeah,
sure, sir.
thank you. Yeah, yeah. And then, so this is what our topic today. Measuring what matters. Agile metrics for continuous improvement. Okay. So let's get into the deep. There's so much topic, over the slides, but I just want to ask very basic fundamental to get the context and to set your mind into the today's topic. Uh, let's take the word agile. Okay, how many of you are agile? If somebody asking a question like, "Are you agile?" What's your response? Yes, no. Come on. Anyone is typing, Sanket? Yes, yes. Okay, that's good. That's good. Okay, so definitely you should say yes, agile. Now, from a professional perspective, when somebody is asking, "Are you agile?" So, what exactly you say while you are working at workplace? When somebody is asking, "Are you agile?" You might have gone through those values, principles, etc., etc. So what exactly, when you put it in your words or when you say to someone, what exactly you mean? Adapting to change by being transparent, inspect, adapt. Okay. So there are many,
absolutely.
many buzzwords. I agree. But the main thing is you should respond appropriately. Okay. Yes, these are all great things. Okay. But truly, typically, when you say agile, is you should learn how to respond to the given context and the given scenario, whatever you are working, etc., etc. But it's always how to respond. That's really what matters. Okay. Now, let me also refresh your concepts. Like, so this is today's agenda. Let me show you. Let's focus few minutes on the intro, which we already started. And then the main big topic today on the metrics. So we'll go through the metrics of various frameworks, including DORA. Okay. And then what's the summary? And then if you have any other learning objectives with respect to today's topic, do share in the chat box as well. Depending on the time, I will definitely address those. Okay. I just want to take a few minutes and then cover all these ones. Okay. So any tell me there is, what drives the waterfall versus agile? Anyone tell me who is truly working in agile or waterfall? There is one factor that drives the entire traditional or waterfall space, as well as there is one factor that drives entire agile space. What is that one factor?
About requirements, scope,
I'm seeing the chat box here. If anyone is
sorry,
typing, they are all right answers, but I want the correct answer. Correct answer. Just one word. Come on, come on, team. Think. The doing agile. No, that's not right. Okay. Value. Thank you, Ravikant. That's the true factor that drives the entire agile space. Now tell me what drives the traditional space. Tell me what drives the traditional space. You're all typically working for as a project manager, right? So what exactly you focus there? What drives the entire traditional space? Come on, come on. What does project manager do day in, day out? He always focuses on one thing. What is that? Plan. Thank you, Sh- Shavli. I'm sorry if I pronounce the name not right, but thank you so much. So these are the two things. Probably now you got exactly what I'm looking for. Yes, agile is a space which is always truly driven by value, whereas the traditional is always driven by the plan. Okay. So you look at agile space, whatever the framework you are in, you always focus on the customer and you always focus on regardless of any event, especially in Scrum framework, right? You always focus what is that end of the day you are delivering at every sprint. What value you are delivering, that's really matters, right? And traditionally, yes, you always know, we always go by plan. We focus plan day in, day out, where we are, how we are we meeting the targets or not, etc. No, we will anyway. I will just slide through this, differences between waterfall and agile. As long as you know the clear distinction of the factors that are driving, I think you can, easily come up with the major differences. Now, leaving at that, how many agile values and agile principles we have? Just in number. 412. Excellent. Okay, so I don't want to get into details, but any framework you use in Agile, and every framework should be, follow these ones without fail. And the last but not the least, people always do fumble understanding the concepts between being agile versus doing agile. So what exactly you mean by being agile? Or what exactly you mean by doing agile? See, I always believe in the basic fundamentals, and I always suggest the foundation should be very strong so that you will be, reaching higher up, higher and higher without any doubt. And when somebody is like making saying something, you can just catch them right away. Okay. Okay. Doing agile is following the agile, adaptive in nature, being agile. Okay. Okay. At least I'm very happy that you guys are sharing it. There is nothing right or wrong. If it is something it is wrong, fine, no issues. You learn. If it is something already, you are close enough, you are kind of able to make the right one. So let's move on with the next slides. I will just quickly run through this. So this is what it is. Of course, I will be sharing this PPT anyway, but it will be your reference. But primarily, yes, you all said, some of you are already said, like Agile is always value driven and waterfall is plan driven. And if you look at the major other differences, yes, Agile is empirical and adaptive and, provides and exercises control through transparency, frequent inspection, and adaptation. Whereas waterfall is always defined process control. It's a predictive, require every piece of work to be completely understood before you start. Okay, so now this is what I wanted to showcase, being agile versus doing agile. So doing agile is nothing but your command and control, typically truly the traditional process, which is waterfall process, where the practices and tools, and if you really align to agile 4 values, you know the difference. Why we are saying when you have the tools and processes versus the practices, it's only come under, command and control or typical traditional way. But if you really look at the next level, where it is principles, the values, and the mindset. So if you combine these, then it is truly working in agile, and it's very, very powerful. And it's somehow, if everyone follows that, it will be truly reflects a cultural change or an organizational change. If you look at on the left-hand side, when you say being agile, it is less visible, but more powerful. Why, how, like say Scrum framework, right? If you look at, if everybody is following the values, principles of the, practices of Scrum framework, I'm sure you make wonders at workplace. Okay. And if you look at on the other side of it, it's more or less command and control, where it will be more visible, but it is less powerful. So just remember these basic fundamental concepts. Now, framework. Everybody says framework, framework. So what do you mean by a framework? Anyone can say in one word, it's a set of. Can anyone define framework? I filled half of it. It's only one word. Framework is a set of what? No, not principles, guidelines, set of methods, values. No, you all know the one word, but only thing you should recollect and put it properly. Process, no. Template, no. Because these are all, day in, day out, people talk at workplace. You need to really correct them right away. Otherwise, there's no point, right? So framework is a set of practices. It's a set of practices. You take any framework, Scrum, Kanban, Lean, the scaling frameworks like DAD, LESS. So you take it safe, you take any framework, it has its own set of practices. Okay, so you need to really follow those practices to make sure you get the ultimate outcome. Outcome is nothing but the value delivery to the customer. Okay. Now, let's get into slowly into the metrics. Now you have all these frameworks, right? So what are the metrics parameters? For example, let's take Scrum, let's take Kanban, or maybe a DevOps. So how do you measure this? Okay. Or maybe another question to all of you. What are a few widely used or popular agile frameworks? Can anyone is typing? Scrum, yes. Good. Yeah, I see. I see. So at least those who know, at least they are typing. Thank you so much. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so before we even get there, I think I put a nice way to explain all of you. Okay, as I said, the word touched up metrics. So what do you mean by metrics? I will give you a wonderful way of defining it today. Maybe it is my version because I learned it from my gurus. Some of you may aware of it. Can somebody elaborate metrics? Measure, measurement between two variables, indicators. No, I'm asking metrics, right? It has like how many? Six or seven letters, right? So how do you elaborate those? Maybe an acronym, maybe, if you want to understand. Can anyone elaborate the word metrics? What may M stands for, what E stands for, what T stands for? I will give you a nice way of explanation or elaborating that. Okay, let's not spend time here. Let's move on. Make sense? Measure everything that result into customer satisfaction. How is this sounding to everyone? Is this really good? Excellent, excellent. So now let's take the metrics per frameworks, right? So as you already touched up, Scrum, people said burn down, burn up, escape defects, velocity. That's where we really focus and measure a team performance at each sprint, how the team is performing. Sometimes some gurus, experts won't even consider velocity as part of the, you know, uh, metric parameters, but it's like optional. Okay. Kanban. Some of you are already typed cycle time, lead time, cumulative flow diagram, WIP limits are some of the popular metrics that we refer and go from there. Now DevOps. So you might have heard lead time for changes, deployment frequency, defects, MTTD, like mean time to detect, mean time to recover, and application performance. So these are some of the key parameters given a framework. We just go and look at how the team is performing day in, day out. Okay. Now let's comes our actual topic today. Uh, like the agile is there, but lately, late 90s, it's kind of came into, and in 2000, we come up with the values, principles. And since then, it is kind of day in, day out. Every organization is looking at, agile, transforming their organizations into agile, whatnot. But even when you on this journey, there is something really latest, greatest. There is a buzzword like Dora metrics. Anyone heard the word Dora, by the way? Okay, good, Kiran. Ravi, good. I'm glad at least you aware of Dora. So what do you mean by Dora? Can you elaborate that? Okay, DevOps research and analysis metrics. I will change you small change there. You're almost there, but not at 100%, right? Okay, let me continue. So this is what it is. It's a full detailed information, but let me explain. So as the journey started, especially from 2001, when we have those values and principles are in place, organizations started working. End of the day in Agile, what really matters is the value. How much value we are delivering, whether you have a, minutes deployment, or a 2 weeks, or a 3 weeks, 4 weeks, regardless of the duration, the releases will be going in, the implementations are happening. But, in this journey, at some point, after almost close to, 10 to 12 years, this research started. Now, even if you look at the DORA, when DevOps Research and Assessment. It's basically a team, and it was found in 2014. It's a truly independent research group, right? And their main goal, aim, focus is to on investigating the practices and capabilities to drive or to achieve the high performance, and especially in the software field. and that automatically increases your financial results. Any business needs the business growth, and financially it need to be successful, right? And this is the metrics where it's not just this research group looked at only one organization or a two or a few. They really research thousands of software development organizations, and they really come up with these, practices, and how they can really deliver the value very quickly, faster, and whatnot. Basically, this is DORA is nothing but a standardized framework for measuring and tracking software delivery performance. Okay, if you are really, like, regardless of title, I don't want to name like you're a PM or a SM or a PO, regardless of your role title in the organization, if you really focus, this is kind of a defined standardized framework, but this ultimately helps your business to grow, your business to succeed, as well as, lot of satisfaction from a customer perspective. Okay, now we know what is DORA, but why DORA? Let's focus on that. Anyone can guess it, at least based on knowing the description of DORA. Why DORA? Anyone can guess it? Okay, okay, okay. Let's elaborate this topic as well. Okay, this is how it is. As I already touched up, the main goal, focus of DORA metrics is helping the organization and improving their software delivery performance. But how? We will elaborate that, what exactly the DORA metrics consist. But ultimately, if you really look at one, the teams can get insights into their respective software delivery performance and the ideas, especially they themselves come up with the areas for improvement in the domain, in the context where they are working in, and also able to come up with some innovative ideas or creativity ideas, how to implement strategies to optimize their processor, or from a cost perspective, etc. Okay, so these are the main key benefits if when you follow DORA. But we'll get into the details. Before I go to the next session slide, the DORA metrics is basically drive are driven by delivery speed, which is simply, you can say, speed, and the delivery quality, which is nothing but your stability. Okay. Let's look at this. So this is what it is. When you really look at delivery speed, we look at deployment frequency, we look at lead time for change. Similarly, when you look at the stability, it's truly focused on quality, where time to restore service, change, failure rate. So this is very, hope it is very clear to all of you. Now, what is the basic fundamental concept behind this? This is what it is. Maximize your ability, capabilities to iterate quickly, because Agile is always like iterative and incremental, right? So you always do the complete the software development life cycle, starting from requirements to deployment. You do it in, if your duration is 1 week, you do everything. If it is a day, you do everything. If it is 2 weeks, you still do everything, right? So utilize all those capabilities or abilities for a faster speed delivery. While doing that, make sure you don't sacrifice the quality. So that's truly the concept behind the DORA metrics. Okay. Now let's moving on. The first one, deployment frequency. Okay. So I have some questions here. What is deployment frequency? Why it is important, and what is the impact of deployment frequency? Okay. And how to improve the deployment frequency. Now let's start with first question. What is deployment frequency from your perspective? Somebody is truly working aware of DORA metrics. What exactly, how do you define that? Okay, very good, very good. Then why it is important? Anyone? Okay, very good, very good. Okay. How to improve the deployment frequency? Maybe this is very tricky, but at least need some people who don't work probably may not guess it properly or say correctly, but at least people who are working, yes, make CI/CD healthy, helps improving deployment frequency. Okay, what else? Okay, so let's look at. Yes, exactly. Automation. Automation is key. Yeah. Okay. So let me show you everything and then explain. Thank you. You are all typing responses in the chat box, so that's really great. Okay, so this is what it is. One slide snapshot. Basically, what you are all said true. Measures deployment frequency is all about measures how often deployments occur or how often changes are deployed into production. Okay, so what are the benefits while doing that? Okay, it's a value delivery in a faster way to the customer, and also continuous deployments means a rapid feedback from end customers, or at least teams also get the, the retrospectives, right? They really help teams to, it's all about journey. Agile is all about journey. Like, you always learn and you always, improve time to time. Okay. Now, especially if you look at deployment frequency, what are few things or areas where you can look at and how they will improve the deployment frequency? One is the smaller size. What do you mean by smaller size, batch sizes, smaller batch sizes, which means the changes. Whenever you work in smaller batches, it will try to help you to reduce the risk, okay, when it goes into the production. And always, whenever you look at, the hierarchy, theme, epic, feature, story, task, subtask, you all that, right? So always disaggregate the work into smaller increments. If you say, okay, this one feature should go this sprint, this epic should go in the next two sprints. So as long as you do that, very uh, planning wise, if you do it nicely, I think uh, it will really help the deployment frequency. Improve automation, automated test coverage, CI/CD tools, EPL. In some organizations we call EPL. Now again, automation is always key in testing. Yeah, when it comes to CI/CD, and also try to put in the release validation and release process as well, because if an organization has a sprint scrum framework with a sprint duration of 1 week, if you do that automation, it's very useful. Okay, every time you don't need to focus and spend a lot of time on it. So do as much as you can the automation. Now, what are the benchmarks for this? If you look at the benchmarks, okay, under performers, right? If you say elite, on demand, multiple deployments per day, okay, high, between once per week and one per month, medium, between once per month and once every 6 months, low, fewer than once per 6 months. I mean, this is how you kind of look at the deployment frequency, what it means, what are the benefits of it, how we can improve it, and what are some of the benchmarks. So tomorrow, if you go there, if you really happen to be somewhere in medium, low, or even high to get into a next level, how can you do that? So this is how you can do that. Propose to your leaders and make sure you get that into action. Okay. Now the second one, what is that? Lead time for change. Now again, same thing I want to ask. This is very clearly why it is important, what it is, why it is important, what is the impact. and then how to improve. Okay. So any ideas, thoughts? I will start looking at the chat box again. Yeah, MDPD is multiple deployments per day. I didn't have much space, so I just put it in, short version. Okay. Time from the time your PR met to deployment to prod. Time taken for entire SDLC, lead time. Okay. What else? You understand the concept between cycle time and lead time, right? I will take just a pause here. What exactly the cycle time? Okay. Lead time? Sensitive. Okay. Okay. Good. Now, the new concept, lead time for change. What exactly that mean then? I know Debojit, I think, sorry if I pronounce the name wrong, but you said correctly. Lead time for change. I want to see any other answers here. Okay, I can clearly show you. Let it be, let continue without slides. This is what it is. If you see below, the lead time, the backlog, whenever you put a story in backlog, that's where the lead time starts. The cycle time, exactly the day you took it for development, your cycle time starts. Now, lead time for changes is actually the from code committed to code running in production. So, as I always tell everyone at my work in general, always try to be brief, crisp, and quality. Whenever you answer someone, you might have read one day, but try to, summary should be in 1 or 2 words, right? So, or maybe 1 or 2 sentences for that matter. But always be very crisp and brief and in a qualitative answer. So, lead time is total, start to end, cycle time, the actual development work to deployment. Lead time for change is simply your code committed to, code committed to code running in production. So that's what it is. Hope it is very clear now with a pic. And then what's the benefit of this? What's the benefit of lead time for change? It always highlights the wait time, okay, why it is in the wait mode in your deployment process. Second, it always identifies the bottlenecks. You remember the CFD, cumulative flow diagram. You can refer that even Scrum as well. But predominantly, whenever CFD comes, it's a Kanban. That's how it is, our mindset. But if you really look at the CFD, there also it helps us the bottlenecks. What are the some of the challenges that the team is going through or facing, right? So this is where it really helps. Now, how to improve lead time for change? So always have your PR. PR is nothing but pull request. So reducing the pull request size. Okay. Now limit work like WIP limits are simply the multitasking. So always avoid the multitasking, and that really helps. And especially WIP limits, I just take a minute here. See, you have this, when you look at Kanban, you have different columns, right? Analysis, development, testing, right? So if you look at any column, make sure the balancing of resources is the key. Okay, having two stories, okay, two people enough in analysis, two developers, two works. So that's really, as long as you balance the WIP limits, I think it will be really cool. It's smooth journey. Okay. Now creating an efficient code review process, that's also really helpful because you don't get through or stuck with the bottlenecks. Now, another thing is, as you all know, enabling automation, especially in CI/CD, that really helps you in many ways. Okay, and it also helps you to reduce your delivery times. Okay, so these are few that I can think of based on my experience, way to improve a lead time for change. Now, what's the benchmark for this? If you say elite, it's less than 1 hour. If it is high, between 1 day and 1 week. Medium, 1 month and 6 months. Low, more than 6 months. So this is what it is. Hope at least you are very clear now. Now we'll move on to the next one. Okay. Of course, have your questions ready. We definitely will have some time at the end. I can just, clear all your questions if any, but at least continue with my slides. Now, the third key parameter part of DORA matrix is time to restore service. Okay, so what it is and why it is important and what is the impact of it, and then how to improve this again. Okay, so let me check your responses. So what do you mean by the time to restore service? Anyone? Okay, lesser downtime for the customer. Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of whenever you see this MTTR, actually, there are many things when you really look at the DevOps one. If you look at that cycle, MTTD, mean time to detect, and mean time to act, mean time to respond, and then mean time to, repair, mean time to resolve, and the last mean time to, I think, repair, resolve, and respond, something like that. So there is a big cycle. So don't confuse that with the DORA matrix. In DORA matrix, what we call is time to restore service. Okay. But your answers are true. I mean, what exactly you are trying to define in your own way. I think I agree with that. But let's move on and see what exactly the definition of it. So mean, like, the time to restore service, what exactly it is? The time it takes to recover from an outage or a failure or a service interruption. Okay. Generally, it is, correlated with both speed and the quality of our engineering teams. Now, we avoid failure? No, we can't. But how quickly we can restore the service is really matters. Okay. Now, in any organization, when it comes to these outages or interruptions or failures, truly it's driven by most of the scenarios, regardless of the domain, is a technology performance. And under that subcategory may be downtime, unreachable, or a block, or a jammed, or a slow, or a timeout. There are a number of reasons, right? So I thought of showing in a Excel sheet where from a history point of view, okay, first time, second time, third time. Okay, so but that's okay. You can sit and do that. That's not a big thing. But at least what exactly it is and what is the benefit of it? As somebody, as you already touched up, like downtime, the lower is the better for a customer perspective. Okay, and even as I said, failure can't be avoided, but whenever it happens, how quickly we can restore the services really matters. So that is truly we need to be very cautious. And over the time, the team can build a culture to deploy any changes as quickly and as efficiently as possible. So it's kind of day in, day out where uh, team can build that kind of a culture in the organization. So make sure you kind of have that in place as well. Now, how to improve? the improvement can come. One is the constant monitoring. Maybe it could be alerts, control tools, your performance metrics, and also the performance testing to happen before going to production. So what does it mean? Any story, any task, any subtask that you do, if needed, you should attach the metrics there. You should attach the overall epic level, what you achieved part of your development and testing. So whether your DOR is meeting your DOD. So those really things will help or avoid these failures or interruptions. Now, what exactly the benchmarks for this parameter? If you see performance, alight means it's a less than 1 hour, and high means less than 1 day, and medium means between 1 day and 1 week, and low means it's very, very, very poor, more than 6 months. I don't think any organization go under low, but definitely, a light, high, and medium, depending on their domain, the size of the organization, and whatnot. But lower is better. Okay. Now, last but not the least is the change failure rate. So again, what it is, why it is important, and what is the impact of change failure rate, and how to improve the change failure rate. So let me see what and how you are responding. Number of changes that caused failure in prod. Excellent, Ravi. Change deployment defects. Okay. Okay. At least I'm glad some of you are aware what the change failure rate. Sometimes people also call deployment failure rate. The only thing is change versus deployment. Okay. So how to define this? It is, as Ravi already said, it's a measure the percentage of changes causing a failure in production. And sometimes it may really need, if it is a showstopper, we need immediate, uh, remediation on an urgent basis. Maybe it could be fixed by hot fix or rollback, whatnot. But sometimes if people refer change versus deployment, it's a percentage of, deployments causing failure in production. The formula is simple. Again, we can put in a year how many deployments or how many changes we deployed into production, and then how many are successful versus how many are failure. And the percentage can be calculated like this: number of failed changes to total number of changes multiplied by 100. Or if you go by deployments, number of failed deployments by total number of deployments multiplied by 100. Okay. Now, precautions to benefits. What exactly, you need to take care to get the benefit out of this uh, for this parameter. So always have smaller changes, meaning the story, the epic, the features, whatever you take in a smaller batches. That will be really help you to mitigate the, if something happens, goes, fails, the impact will be sometimes no impact, but at least even if there is an impact, it will be very low. Now, whenever some fail happens, right? It's kind of going back, working again. So the time spent you work on failures, it's sometimes it is more. It would be really worth to spend that time to spend on deliverables or more enhancing development or a new product development. Okay. So always be cautious there. And every effort to monitor, like especially on a precautionary note, if you monitor continuously, it will help you lowering the number of problems in software, which is always everybody wants to I mean, it's a desire, not only from a customer perspective, even for the organization itself. Even in internal, some of the tools we develop, some of the processes, applications, product we develop within the organization, this is always a precaution, and we must do it to get benefit out of it. Now, how to improve the change failure rate? Okay. So This is again common answers, but it's very key. Whenever you bring in our discussion, make sure you bring or invite all the right people, including the teams, the dependency teams, upstream, downstream, other domains if you are really impacting because of the application product that you are in. So make sure you should invite all stakeholders. That's the first thing. Second, have a collaborative discussion. Discuss into detail. This is the change. This is the features that we are developing, and this is how it will be end of the day impacting and benefiting the customers. And if you are really impacting the other upstream or downstreams, make sure they are also part of the discussion. They understood, and then they take appropriate actions accordingly. The third one is always call the dependencies out, because all Scrum events are whenever you meet in Agile, regardless of a framework, right? So always it is an opportunity to showcase what you are working, what are the challenges you are facing, or even what are you anticipating of facing challenges. And then no challenges, that's fine, but at least you need to really call out. Don't wait in the last minute, or don't fear of saying out in the last minute. It's always good to be transparent so that you are the cause either for good or for worst. So that's the reason you always need to utilize the proper context, time. Make sure you call out, including environmental dependencies, if any. Okay. So at least this is what I really wanted to elaborate. And then I can give you one research as well. When it comes to the benchmarks of this, if you really look at the performance, Elite are 0 to 15% whenever you say the change failure rate. Remaining, if you look at it's percentage wise, it's same. But if you look at the number of teams in tiers, will definitely differ. Why? I gave you one good example here. The Google and the Dora, they publish a yearly study based on a worldwide survey of DevOps professionals. And if you really look at this, the change failure rate breakdown from 2019 survey. That's the latest greatest I kind of able to refer. But if you really look at here, regardless of the tier, elite, high, medium, your change failure rate is like 0 to 15% only. But when it comes to number of teams that are falling in, is the 20%, 23%, 44% respectively. But when you look at the low, it's kind of the change failure rate is falling between 46 to 60, and then number of teams, the percentage in tier is around 12%. Hope this is kind of clear and makes sense to all of you. Moving on, I think I just wanted to say the conclusion, the summary. Yes, DORA is nothing but DevOps research and assessment. And especially for the last two key parameters, if you look at time to restore service or the change failure rate. As I said, put it in Excel in a year. And then if you really take these aggregate values of DORA metrics, if you take that, they're really helpful. At least you can guess the long-term trends, or, uh, at least the long-term trends, especially way ahead of the time. Second, you get the initial benchmark for your own organization. So this is a suggestion. I mean, we always know, we just don't take one or two. It's always average of, the times whatnot will really help you and helps to, improve and learn whatnot. Okay. And the whole summary of the DORA metrics is primarily helping the organization, but how? Okay. Faster delivery of software with higher quality, improved customer satisfaction, ultimately increased your business growth and success. Okay. It's very simple to say, but when you go on Monday morning, if something you are already implementing part of Scrum, Kanban, DevOps, or regardless of any framework, right? Or even scaling frameworks like SAFe, DAD, less, try to incorporate these. Like, for example, you may say how. Say I am a Scrum Master. Say I'm a project manager who's balancing this role of Scrum Master and project manager, or I may be a product owner. So regardless of your role title in the organization, if you really look at this DORA, these four key parameters, go and see in your JIRA how your team is performing in terms of speed, in terms of quality. Is there anything that you can improve to make it happen? Okay, the deployment frequency. Where are you now with a 2-week period or a 3-week period duration? Can you really, shorten it? Depending again, it's again depends on your business context. So you really need to look at those parameters, but can you make some improvement there? Okay. So look at that way, and then wherever applicable, try to, apply. And the last but not the least, I truly love this. You can't improve what you don't measure, right? In general, of course, this is said by Peter Drucker, but in general also, in our lifetime, in our day in, day out life, if you don't, if you can't improve what you don't measure, you have been following certain, process, maybe lifestyle, maybe whatever you can think of, but always reflect and see how you are doing it. If every day there is a learning, there is an improvement, yes, you are really doing great. And I strongly believe the learning and the improvement are the key in our professional lives and personal lives, regardless of anything. The moment you say, I know everything, there is no scope for me to learn, you are done and dusted. Similarly, if you say, uh, I am fully improved, there's no option or opportunities for me to improve. If that is the conclusion you make, I think you're done and dusted. So as a well-wisher, my take on is to take these two takeaways, do learn at every opportunity and do improve at an every opportunity in your personal and professional lives. Okay, so with that, I think we'll move on to the next slide. And this is again for you some takeaways. I don't want to ask you all these questions because we have gone through all that, but make sure it's my way of saying, or my gurus who kind of taught me of saying, remember what is metrics, measure everything that result into customer satisfaction. At least you can go to, showcase this in your organization. Whenever somebody talks metrics, tell them that this is what it is. So you should truly bound by that, and especially in agile space or even in traditional space. Now, what are the key parameters of Scrum and Kanban metrics? What is DORA and why DORA metrics? What are the 4 key parameters of DORA metrics and how to improve them, and how to improve each parameter DORA metrics? So basically, just a takeaway for you. Make sure you go and do some, personal homework kind of a thing, so that you can remember forever. Now, again, I did a lot of research to come out this slide PPT. So these are some references for you for more to gain. Whenever you get an opportunity, do refer. And yeah, that's it. I think I'm done with what I am. What's the time, Vinay and Sanket? I can stay, take some of the questions. Feel
Yes,
free.
yes. We can take a couple of questions. Yes.
Yeah, sure, sure.
So Bhaskar, you will be sharing this deck after this call, right?
Definitely. I
Yeah,
will
yeah.
share it with Vinay and Sanket, and they will be definitely sharing not only the PPT, I think the recording version as well.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure
Thanks.
it will be very, very useful to all of you.
Thanks,
So,
Bhaskar.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have one question, Bhaskar. This is
sure,
Rajesh.
sure, Rajesh.
I mean, I understand the process. I understand the lead cycle time, other things. But coming into agile approach, when we say that a sprint is starting, even though we are 10% of the requirement or 20% of the requirement is already there, we are going to start development work. So then in that scenario, say if I'm starting from sprint day 1, we are about to work. Say that my project is about a scratch project or a
Mhm.
R&D project, right? So the day 1, I don't have the correct requirement. So in that scenario, how do you calculate lead cycle time?
Okay. So what you said, if I am understanding correctly, the requirements are not in place. I mean, in Agile, we call them user stories. Okay. So it is truly the responsibility of the product owner here. He really need to come up with the backlog. He's not only come up with a backlog, but also healthy backlog. When I say healthy backlog, every story that he prioritized to get into a sprint or a iteration, the sprint we call in case of Scrum framework, the iteration we call in case of a Kanban. So every story that he comes in should, or I will say must, meet the DOR criteria. So what is DOR? Definition of ready. So what does it mean? When I read user story, every developer should be able to understand. That's the first thing. No questions, concerns, comments. Second, I should see the acceptance criteria. Okay. If you are formed a new team, I understand, Rajesh, but depending on the strength, depending on, your experience, let's say I will take 25 story points in the first sprint for my team. Okay, that is randomly. I am okay with it. But say, for example, you are taking 10 stories with a 25 story points. Now, every story should meet this reward criteria. Now, it is the responsibility of you, your team, and the product owner to make sure it's meeting that basic fundamental, without which you don't start the sprint. Simple. As a Scrum Master, it is my role to make sure my team gives an opportunity with a clear, stories, not with, insufficient information. Because what happens is once you start the sprint, you should not add any stories. You should not remove any stories because the sprint has a goal or objective. You continue to focus on that till the completion of the sprint. When it is done, you review, and that's where the value generation happens to your customer. And if customer or any stakeholder part of that review, if they give good suggestions, that will be going back to your product backlog, and your product owner will be deciding the prioritization, whether to continue that story or whether he can bring it in a next sprint or whatnot. Okay. So this is how the process. I mean, in the beginning, if it is a new team, you should go by trial and error. But over the time, because in simple language, right? If you come to work and work on one role, responsibilities. Over the time, what happens? You know many things. You are very well versed, and you do the same thing in a quicker, faster, right? So that's how a team, a newly formed, understood, agreed, but come up with the velocity, like how many story points that need to be considered, come up with randomly, and then over the time, sprint on sprint, you increase. At some point, you realize it's the team will become stable, right? So maybe started with 25, then 30, then 35, then 40. See there if the team can really going well. If going well, continue to have a 5% increase sprint on sprint or a 10% increase sprint on sprint. But at some point you realize maybe when they reached out to say 45, then they couldn't complete 45. So next time what you should do, you should plus or minus few percentages, bring it down to 40. I'm sure they will be able to do 40. But as far as the stories are not meeting the DOR criteria, as a Scrum Master, you should not let it go into the any sprint. Now, once it is completed, then automatically like Jira, the reporting, so it will give you, you can customize the reports, whatnot. So yeah, hope I answered, Rajesh, to your questions. It's a lengthy, but this is how you should do it.
Okay, thank you.
And one more thing is that in Agile, every role is very critical. And every role, when I say Scrum Master, developer, and nowadays we call, the entire Scrum team is developer team, dev team, right? So every person is very critical, has a very unique contribution towards the ultimate, the delivery of a given sprint. So that's why we all need to collaborate together and make sure we deliver the things 100% correctly.
Okay. Siraj just raised his hand. Go ahead, Siraj.
Mhm.
Hey, thank you. Thanks, Vinay. My question is related to the metrics. Most of us have transitioned from the traditional to agile. In
Agree.
traditional, we have many metrics like CPI and SPI, etc. In agile, we do have burn down and burn up charts and velocity. However, sometimes the sponsors and the clients would complain that, hey, the burn down, burn up will give me what is the current status. However, it would not give me what would be the, are we over the budget or are we behind the schedule, ahead of the schedule, all of that. Have you faced any of that in your experience, Bhaskar? And sometimes
See,
I feel it as true because we cannot estimate whether we are going over the budget or over the schedule or something like that in agile.
okay, okay. Good question. But again, I have an answer for you. Okay. In traditionally, it's a strategical way of doing things. In agile, it's a tactful way of doing things because you consider, the planning is onion kind of thing, right? The planning is team level, at a product level, at a roadmap level, like at a sprint level, release level. So there are different versions. So at a developer level, you don't know the top, what is happening, but at least up to release level. Okay. But from product owner and the management and the senior leadership, they all know, right? Like what exactly, when this need to happen and things like that. So definitely when you are coming to develop an application or a product, we sometimes it goes by history, like how much time it will take, and sometimes it goes by your own experience. Again, you have a team, so considering all these parameters, say if a team is kind of based on their expertise and whatnot, say it will take like 10 sprints. 10 sprints, each sprint worth the duration of like 2 weeks, so it's automatically like 20 weeks, right? So something like that. So when you say 20 weeks and, there is a estimation, like when you really work as an enterprise coach who kind of looks not only at the floor level, but also at the strategy level, at a project, sprint on sprint, how much it could be. For example, if the team members are delivering, as I said, a 40 story points with a stable, okay, so what exactly? So that's how you calculate, and the estimations are really cool, relatively very accurate compared to our traditional, because you are going drilling the, whenever I say story point, it's a reflection of your complexity, your uncertainty, and your volume. So having said all these parameters, especially the sprint zero concept, right? Where especially in case of sprint or iteration zero, that's where we evaluate all these, and then you come up very high level as well as tactfully, as quickly as you can. If something going deviating, then definitely you can revise and redo that. But definitely uh, you have some kind of a high level view, certainly. Hope I touched up your point and how to do whatnot in the estimation side.
Okay. And from the chat, I will take. Let's take two more questions and wrap it up. We have 8 minutes over. But yeah, Ravi Kiran Nori, can you please touch upon what is changed in this change failure rate? Is it PR or a deployment?
It's a changes. I mean, sometimes people call change failure rate. Sometimes people call deployment failure rate. Okay. So you stick to change failure rate. That's what exactly the DORA metric says. But people take that in a different way, like change nothing but for them deployment. Don't get confused. Okay. DORA says change failure rate. Change is nothing but, in a way, it is a deployment, right, Ravi? Agree, disagree? This change happens, the failure happens only part of the deployment, right? So people kind of, refer that, but don't get confused. Hope it is clear. Yes, no.
Ravi Kiran,
Ravi, are you still there?
he actually raised the hand also.
Okay.
Okay, let's go to last question since we are running out of time. Uh, again, who's this? Debajyoti. Agile emphasizes individuals and interactions over process and tools, where DORA completely based on metrics. How to resolve that conflict?
No, I think you misunderstood. Okay. So when you elaborate DORA, like DevOps, right? Development and operation, that itself is nothing but your agile, like individuals and interactions over process and tools. So when you really look at the both left side and right side, always the left side is more preferred, like in case of agile, right? If you look at right side, it is truly a traditional one, right? But DORA is truly came out from, the DevOps, development and operations, right? So DORA is nothing but it stands for a research group, some, highly professionals, whatnot. It's in a research group, but it is truly the reflection of agile only, agile values and the processes, whatnot. Okay. There's nothing you should avoid. As far as metrics is concerned, if you look at a framework like Scrum, look at a Kanban, look at any other scaling frameworks, okay? Each one of them has its own way of measuring the performance. Yes or no? While doing that, the DORA people, this research investigation, this whole team, the purpose of forming this team is to investigate more and more practices, standards, a framework or whatnot, how to improve this, the delivery in case of a software development, and then how to increase the business, how to get success more quickly and faster and without compromising the quality. So that's why, as I said, the DORA metrics is truly reflection of speed and the stability, if you can look at that way. Okay. Hope it is very clear now. If you look at DORA, those 4 key parameters, if you go into your organization and start implementing, okay, then I think you see the wonderful results, regardless of a framework. You forget about the framework. Say you are using in your organization a Scrum. So the moment you start putting the deployment frequency, what it is in your organization, say 2 weeks or a 3 weeks or a 4 weeks, can you reduce that? Because what is happening in the reducing, one is the value generation and the, feedback it is coming, not only for customer, not only for organization, but for the entire team, right? And then what it is really making ultimately, if it is a new product, time to market is fast. So that's how you should consider. But still, if you really need more, I'm happy to, spend time with you and clear the concept there. I hope at least this is clear.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
All
Bhaskar,
right, I think.
can I have your email ID or LinkedIn?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
definitely.
about to say. I was
Yeah,
about to
thank you.
say.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bhaskar R99. I will think here. No problem.
yeah. While I'll be closing this, you can give that, sir. Okay, so
Sure.
thank you very much, Bhaskar Reddy, sir, for coming forward and taking session. I think uh, you are one of the very well-known speaker in our Agile series 1, 2, and now 3. And that too very important topic. I think when you said about how can we go for that, can we talk about metrics? I was really happy. And for the information of the participants who joined today, next week we have Agile conference in Infosys campus. Whoever not registered, please do get registered. And even Bhaskar sir is also coming there. You can come and meet him and have a discussion. And by the way, the panel discussion is going to happen on the metrics only. Yesterday, we were, with the panel moderator and panelist, I was, kind of doing they setting the expectations and discussing. I was saying tomorrow is Agile series. We have session on metrics, that too on Dora metrics, and now on the conference we have panel discussion. So in panel discussion, in each of the organization, how they are implementing or Dora metrics or what they are measuring in their own context. So we have Monica, Padmini, and Deepti, Deepti from FedEx, Monica from IGT, and then Padmini from Nagarao, and Subbarao, who is from Otis. He is moderating the session. So a lot of things you'll get to know how organizations, different domains, how they are measuring their agile implementation and all. And I think this set of perfect platform with Bhaskar Reddy's session on Dora metrics. I think we are rightly placed just before the conference next week. And I'm sure many of you have registered there. If you are not registered, please do get registered. For in person, we have limited capacity, so last few seats are left. Please go. I would recommend. Uh, where you have opportunity of meeting a lot of agile coaches, scrum masters, and product owners. I think let's have an in-person conversation on your organization, how they are implementing, if you want to take help or mentorship or guidance from the speakers, from the agile coaches, you can definitely come. Yes, Vijay.
Yeah, Vinay, can you share Agile 1 and 2 also? Because earlier I didn't get the invite. Please, you do share the deck and the recordings, no? Along with
Yeah,
this.
yeah. So I will be posting the link of Agile series list in the Telegram group, and also here also I will keep the list. You go to our PMIPCC YouTube channel. I've just pasted the link in the chat. There you can find playlist 1, 2, 3, Agile series 1, Agile series 2, Agile series 3. In fact, last year Agile conference, all the videos. It is our knowledge repository for our all the virtual events. You can find it there. In fact, last year, series 2, series 1, Bhaskar's sir's session also you will find out.
Yeah,
Just go
thank
to that YouTube and find out the playlist. And
thanks,
last,
thanks, Vinay. Thank you.
sure, sure. And last session also, Fatima covered on DevOps. I think the sequence and the precursor and successor is perfectly made for this today's Agile series session. It's all God's script, and we just implemented. Thank you very much, sir, Bhaskar Reddy, sir, for coming forward and taking the session. And thank you all for joining on Saturday morning, sacrificing the weekend morning, but of course for good learning and good networking. And see you next week in the conference. And post conference, we'll continue the series. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Vinay. Thanks, Bhaskar sir.
Thank you, Vinay. Thank you, board, PMI, PCC, for this
Thank
opportunity.
you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Bhaskar.
Thank you
Thank
all.
you. Thank you.
No
Thank you,
problem.
everyone.
Yeah. Bye.